Welcome to your Time Management Revolution. This is Time Management Fixer Helene Segura. In today's episode, I'll be sharing a previously recorded interview during which we're discussing time management and mind management. Enjoy!
Welcome to Total Time Mastery, the masterclass series that helps busy, ambitious entrepreneurs and business owners to become highly productive, efficient, effective, and have a life that they enjoy. And my name is Grossart. I'm your host for the series, and I'm bringing to you a wealth of experts from around the world who have mastered their own challenges and struggles with time through their own experience and observation and training. And we've specifically hand-picked experts who we know are going to bring you some powerful, actionable steps that will really make a difference from today. So have your notebook ready, pen, paper, jot down nuggets as you hear them. You can, of course, re-listen to this, and I want you to get the best value possible from investing your time in this so that you walk away and are able to make a difference in your business and in your life. Now, today I have a very interesting speaker who I think you're going to really enjoy. Her name is Helene Segura, and she is otherwise known as the Inefficiency Assassin, which I absolutely love. It's such a powerful title that speaks volumes about, Helene, what you do. So I'd like to just invite you in to say hello and share a little bit about yourself. I think it's powerful if you share that and tell us how you got to be, doing the work that you do right now. So come and say hi.
Well, thank you very much, Dawn. I appreciate you having me here. There's so much to talk about as far as my background, so I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. I was born and raised in Los Angeles and migrated to Texas, and the reason why that's important is because they are two totally different cultures. And what I learned from early on is that it's really important to learn about all sorts of different people and how they tick, because when you do that, then you're able to negotiate and compromise and get along better. And that's key because that's what time management boils down to. But how I got into time management was when I was in high school, and of course when you're going to school you don't have as many responsibilities. I felt like I really did quite a bit. I played 4 varsity sports, and I was in honors classes. And I wasn't the genius in the honors classes. I was the kid who actually had to study just to make the B or C. And so I felt like I managed my time pretty well. But when I got to college, I almost flunked out of school because I was not managing my time well. So that was the beginning of me studying how to do everything that you're supposed to do at your job, because at that time my job was college, but then also have a life outside of that because I didn't want to be a bookworm the entire time. And then when I had my first job after college, I was working 12-hour days and was absolutely tuckered out, and I thought, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. I don't care if it's going to get me a lot of money. This is no good. And I was able to pinpoint what all the inefficiencies at that company were, and I shared that during my exit interview, and I realized, wow, I can see what's going on. I transitioned into a teaching career, and that is all about time management because it's sink or swim. If you're not an organized teacher, then you will absolutely sink, and started sharing time management strategies with my students. And that was the beginning of me realizing I know how to teach people this. So I taught for 11 years and then opened up my consulting business in 2006, and I've been doing time management consulting ever since.
And it's great that you share your own insights, because the thing that I think we all come to realize at some point in our lives is that our experience is always going to be helpful and beneficial to others when we're willing to share it. And I'm grateful that you have this this space with us today to share some of your powerful insights. And my first question that I'm excited to ask you really is about can we really manage time? What is the secret behind those phrases, time management, that actually make it work?
I think that the popular phrase is time management, but in order for you to truly manage your time, it goes back to mind management because it's not a clock and it's not a timer. Those tools are not going to be the key tools that lead you to figuring out how to get everything done. It's going to be your mind and understanding what your priorities are and making decisions about how you want to use your time. So really, time management truly is all about mind management.
Good answer. Thank you for that. It always comes back to ourselves, essentially, to actually be the owner and be responsible for what we experience. So if somebody, let's say, is listening to this right now and they're in their business, they're busily growing their business, they're very committed, they're highly focused, maybe they're in the first couple of years or so they may be feeling very busy and maybe not getting everything done and feeling like they're not having a life. You know, that scenario is one I've seen happen over and over and over again. What would you share that would really speak into that would probably help a lot of people listening?
The first thing that I have my clients do is identify their priorities, because part of the problem is since we haven't identified our priorities, everything is a priority, which means nothing is a priority. And you just jump around to whatever lands in front of you. There's no real thought as far as, should I be spending my time on this right now, or is this something I can do later because it's a lower priority? So we start off with identifying what the top 3 priorities are in our personal life. So we're identifying the most important people or activities in our lives, because if we understand who or what it is we are living for, then that is going to be part of the motivation to stay focused and productive during the workday. And then we slide over into the work component. We identify the top 3 priorities in our job or in our business. And by priorities, we're not talking about tasks that you do, like return phone calls or check email. We're talking about what is the core responsibility of what you're supposed to do. Are you responsible for making sure that all of your customers fill out their evaluations and you have the highest customer service evaluations anywhere? Are you responsible for creating the next big product that's going to hit the market and you're going to make $1 million out of it? What are those top priorities that you're trying to reach? Because once you identify those, that helps you make those better decisions about how you spend your time. And you start to learn that you can put off some of those low-hanging fruit tasks that you tend to spend more time on. You can put those off until later so you can spend more time on your priorities.
And that's a great response to help people see that they need to focus. If you are an entrepreneur and you're owning your business and feeling like you have to sort of wear all the hats in the organization as it stands right now, how would you evolve that answer to help people see where they maybe need to get some help or delegate? How do you actually support people to make good decisions around those? What is your zone of genius and what do you let go of?
Right. In my latest book, The Inefficiency Assassin, I talk about how it's so important to do a mind liberation. And this mind liberation can be done on a daily basis so you can get everything out of your head so you have less mind clutter out there. But in the very beginning, you want to do a mind liberation of all the different tasks you complete throughout the day on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a quarterly basis. And it doesn't have to be written in any particular order. Just sit there and think about, what do I do? And list all of that out on a sheet of paper or on a document on your computer. And then next, what you want to go through, and since you've already identified your top 3 work priorities, you want to go through and start analyzing all the different tasks that you do. And I have my clients rate each task with dollar signs. So is this particular task going to directly bring in money, or is it one of those subordinate tasks that, yes, is somewhat important to the business and should get done, but it's not going to directly bring in money? So after we rank all of these tasks, we look at the top dollar sign tasks, which ones had 4 or 5, which ones only had 1. And what they discover is that they have been spending the majority of their days on those $1 and $2 sign tasks instead of the $4 and $5 sign tasks. So it helps them to realize this is where my time needs to go. And for those who realize that they don't have enough time in the day to do everything that needs to get done, we start gathering all of those $1 and $2 sign tasks and look into the possibility of hiring an assistant, which is really scary when you're working on your own, but one of the best investments you can make is looking into an assistant who can work for you maybe a couple of hours a week, maybe a couple of hours a day, depending on your budget. But that investment in that assistant and knowing what tasks they need to work on, that will free up your time for those high-value tasks.
I love that. And yeah, actually taking the time to evaluate, are you spending too much time on the things that actually do not generate income? Because certainly from a business owner's perspective and a solopreneur or a small business, having your most productive time be actually focused on the revenue generation activity is absolutely key, especially in the early stages. And yeah, something that just came to me as you were speaking that, Helena, is something, again, I've witnessed it many times and actually experienced it, where you can be spending time doing the low dollar or the low pound generating activities, but actually using it as a distraction or resistance because there's something going on in the mind that's kind of holding you back from stepping into or out of your comfort zone. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yes, and I have to tell you, just about every person I met has gone through that, but they haven't realized what they're doing. So when we're in sessions, we talk about how often are you jumping into email? How often are you jumping into social media? Because most people don't pay attention to what they are actually doing. They just know that the day flies by, and at the end of the day, they say things like, oh, my gosh, where did the time go? I didn't get anything done. And what they discovered when they start tracking their time is that whenever they have a big project that they're supposed to be working on and they're nervous about how am I supposed to put it together, I'm not sure what to do, or maybe it's not going to be perfect, or maybe they have a decision they need to make, or maybe they're nervous about an upcoming meeting, they tend to use the low-hanging fruit tasks as a procrastination crutch. So they spend too much time in email, they spend too much time in social media, or reaching after that low-hanging fruit. So once they become aware of this, they can actually catch themselves in the act. It's human nature to want to procrastinate, so it's not like you're going to quit procrastinating 100%. But even if you just chopped your procrastination in half, just imagine how much time you can win back.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so what you're saying there is to be really aware of how you're operating and how you're actually spending your time. So presumably you have some tracking tool or some strategy that you recommend to do that. How would you suggest somebody begins to really look at that in detail, Helena?
The easiest way to do it really is just with an Excel spreadsheet. There are some time tracking apps that you can use, like when you're supposed to track your time for billable hours. But what's really simple is just a time tracking sheet. And in fact, in the link that you're going to send to everybody, I am sharing my time tracking sheet that I use with my clients. So that way you have the whole template there. And what we do is we track by every 30 minutes. And I have to tell you that when clients see what they're supposed to do for homework, they say things like, what do you mean I'm supposed to track my time? I don't have time to do this. That's why I hired you. I don't have time in my day. And so they push back a little bit, but I tell them just please do this, and I promise you, you track your time for 1 week, it will change your life forever. And what they realized is that because they now had to pay attention to their time, they became aware of what I call time leaks. And nobody just sits down and intends to waste a 2 or 3 hour block of time. And yet, what they discovered when they were tracking their time is that they lost up to 3 hours a day from distractions, procrastination, and then just shutting down because they were overwhelmed. And it didn't happen all at once. It happened 5 minutes over here, 10 minutes over there. But when they added up their time when they were tracking it, they realized, oh my gosh, I just lost 2 hours yesterday or 3 hours yesterday when you add all of that up. So by going through this exercise of time tracking, they learned how to be more present. They learned how to be focused and actually be cognizant of how they are using their time. And once they did that, they realized they don't have to change everything that they do. What they had to change was how present they were in the moment throughout the day. Because once they were in charge of making decisions about their time, they realized, I do have the time to do so much more.
And that's a great exercise. I have actually done that for myself a couple of years ago, and it was very, very insightful when you realize, 5 minutes lost here, 10 minutes lost there over a week. It adds up to sometimes a significant amount of time that you're not being productive. And that could mean, for a business owner, that you're not reaching out to new connections, you're not following up on new leads, or, you're just not actually being as organized as you could be and streamlining your systems so that you feel like you're on top of everything. And, Helene, I want to ask you, actually I've got two questions that are coming up based on what you've just shared. One is actually about, systems and being organized and how much that really supports you. So let's actually go there first before I share the other one, because they're quite different. So, what would you say to someone who's maybe feeling a little bit chaotic in the way they operate?
I would say, referring back to that mind liberation I talked about, where you listed all of the tasks that were floating around in your head, the things that you do each day, and then you ranked them by dollar signs. Once you've moved into that step, the next step would be to begin to categorize them. So what category would that task fall in? Is that a marketing task? Is that a business building task? Is that an accounting task? And you can start categorizing them so you can understand all the different parts of your business and how they interact with each other. And once you've identified what your main categories are, you can begin to estimate how much time you'd like to spend on each of those categories throughout the week. So you're not promising that you're going to do the same thing at the same time each day, but you are telling your brain, I'd like to spend roughly 6 hours a week on marketing and 4 hours a week on cold calls, 1 hour a week on my administrative accounting tasks. And when you understand how you would like your week to flow, when you start feeling out of balance, you go back to these time blocks of your categories and you start to realize, oh, that's why I'm feeling out of balance. I have done nothing but marketing this week, and I haven't touched any of the other categories. So that helps you to readjust if you're feeling out of balance. So as far as a system goes, you don't have to do the same exact thing each and every day, but if you can at least map out your week ahead, how you want to spend your time around appointments that you already have scheduled, how much time do you want to devote to the new website or the web page that you're building or the email campaign that you're going to put together. So if you can adjust that so that way you're hitting all of the high points of your business, you're going to feel much more in control. So that is one of the best systems I recommend, is just sitting down and understanding what the parts of your business are and how much time you would like to invest in each part of your business each week.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you for that. And, I really want to bring into this space, the result of what you're sharing really is about putting people in their optimum power to be managing their business and not feel like it's managing them or it's running them, that they are actually in control as much as we can be in control, that you've got an organization that's growing and is manageable. And this is, sometimes it can take, maybe a little bit of time to get to that point, but by bringing everything that you're sharing with us, Helena, it gives someone the ability to actually question themselves and take an audit of how they're actually operating, how they're spending time. And thank you for that answer. The question that I also had was really about how much emotions and our capacity to uphold personal boundaries also impacts on performance around time. What would you have to share around that?
I would say that it's funny that you bring up the word boundaries, because just the other day I was speaking with a client about what boundaries do you want to set, because there were certain people in her life who she felt were taking advantage of her time, but then we dove into the whole negotiation. You're in charge of your time. But I used the word boundaries, and she said, oh, no, I do not like boundaries. I am not going to be contained or confined by boundaries. And I realized that whole word was a hang-up for her. So I changed the vocabulary, and I said, okay, let's talk about your investments. What investments do you want to make with your time? And just by changing that one word, then she was open to everything that she needed to learn regarding time. So whether you use the word boundary or expectations, this goes back to setting those personal priorities and work priorities, because when you understand what those are, you are going to feel much more powerful and confident and secure when you say to somebody who's requesting time for you, I'll need to take a look at my calendar and get back to you on that. If you're uncomfortable saying no right away, or if you are comfortable saying no right away, you can say, I'm afraid that's not going to fit into my calendar right now, but if you touch base with me in 2 months, then I'll be able to reevaluate at that time. And you feel confident in saying that because you understand what your boundaries are or what your investments are, and you understand whether or not that request fits into that.
Oh, I love that. And also thank you for actually touching on the power of saying no, because that in itself, or having a phrase which actually empowers you to actually buy back your own time and to not be, let's say, always giving in to other people's demands and letting go of your own priorities. That element of personal power, I feel, and I think you agree, Helena, is a very important element of making your time optimally efficient and productive. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I would just like to say that time management is all about mind management, and you can tell your time what to do. And this is really hard for folks who are nurturers, and nurturers are the people who want to take care of everybody in the world and make sure everybody is happy and everybody likes them, because who doesn't want to be liked? And nurturers have the hardest time saying no. And that's why it's really important that you begin to develop that language that you can start to say automatically, like the two examples that I gave, let me go check my calendar. And then that's one easy way to get out of making an instant decision. And so if you are a nurturer, it's really critical that you come up with a couple of phrases to have in your back pocket so you're ready to go with what you want to say. Yeah. And additionally, if I can add one more thing, if you make your answer all about the other person, then if you're a nurturer, this will help make you feel better that you're not hurting the other person's feelings. For instance, if you really don't want to do something right then and there because you have way too much going on, you could say, thank you so much for asking me. I appreciate that you trust me enough to do this. However, when I do something, I want to make sure that I do it 100% at the very minimum. And with my schedule this week, there is no way I could deliver that 100% to you. So can we schedule this for when I can give you my full attention and effort? I mean, who doesn't want 100% from somebody? It'd be really hard for somebody to be mad at you after you're telling them, hey, it's all about you and the quality I give to you. So if you just write down a couple of standard phrases you can have ready to go, you feel much more comfortable when you say these things to people when you're first starting this out.
Very empowering. Thank you for that. And so let's just, for a moment, just touch on a couple of your favorite things. You have your book called The Inefficiency Assassin. What would be your, let's say, your top 3 tips or strategies that you share in that book that you think might be helpful?
We've already touched on one, which is creating priorities. The other one we've also touched on a little bit, and that is having language that is ready to go, because a lot of us fear letting somebody down, and we don't have that language ready to go in our heads. So I have some scripts in there of what you can use in different situations. And then the two others, I know you only asked for three, but I'll give you two others.
No,
one
go
is
for
the
it.
chapter on one is the chapter on procrastination, because procrastination seems to be the biggest challenge that all of us have, since it's a part of human nature. Procrastination is the act of wanting to feel better now, so that's why we procrastinate. So I'm really proud of the chapter in there with all of the advice. And then the other one is, especially for entrepreneurs, is how to control brain overdrive. Because when you own your own business, this is your baby. And if somebody didn't stop you, or if you didn't stop yourself, you would work on this 24/7, because you want to do everything that it takes for you and your business to be successful. However, if you work 24/7 and never turn off your brain, you never have a chance to recharge. A lot of your personal relationships are going to fall by the wayside, and you don't feel very whole when you're doing that. So there are two chapters in there on still being creative and driven, but learning how to control the brain overdrive, keeping it in check.
Thank you, because there is a lot of power to. It's like the holiday experience, isn't it, when you take 2 weeks out and you realize how relaxed and de-stressed you are by literally stepping away from your job or your business. It's how to actually create that experience for yourself as a business owner, so that you do benefit actually from the imagination and creativity that's within each of us, that actually helps you to grow your business. This is something that I'm so glad you shared that, because I'd actually forgotten to kind of raise it. But, that capacity that we have to problem solve when our brain is not over busy in the conscious kind of processing, phase, if you like, or state. What you're saying there really is giving yourself space to be creative, to help your business grow. Am I right with that?
Exactly. And it's better to create this space on your terms rather than being forced to create it because you're sick or you're about to have a nervous breakdown, because then you're not creating the space on your terms and it won't be as fruitful. So create that space ahead of time, be proactive, and create that recharge zone.
So what does that look like? Is that planning your year out and putting in holidays, or how do you do that?
Well, I actually do plan a year out. My husband's a teacher, so we sit down with the school calendar at the start of each year, and we block off any weekends we want to take off or vacation time. We go on holiday every summer, but not everybody feels comfortable doing this a year ahead of time. So what you'd want to do is first start off with, what are your business hours? Do you want to work 8 to 10 hours a day all the way through, or maybe you have children and you need to drop them off, pick them up from school, so your workday will be in chunks. Just starting with something as small as identifying what your business hours are Monday through Friday or Saturday through Thursday. That helps you create a recharge zone on a daily basis, so you understand when is work time and when is personal time. And so that way your brain can be fully concentrating on each when you're supposed to be in that mode. I've run across a lot of people who are working from home, so they say that it's family time, but they're not mentally present because they're still working on their computer. And their family sees that and feels that, and they feel left out. So that's why it's really helpful to create those hours. And if you don't want to plan a year ahead, just look 2 weeks from now. Do you want to take a half-day staycation where you just curl up with a cup of tea or coffee and just relax and enjoy yourself? So you don't have to go away for 2 weeks. You can go away in your living room for half a day. Just shut off all your electronics, curl up with that coffee or a movie or a glass of wine, and just relax.
Oh, what a wonderful picture you just painted. Thank you for that. And again, that is simple but powerful, isn't it? That is accessible to everybody. And In speaking to you, Helene, one of the things that I'm hearing really is that, we all of us have the capacity to be more productive and to be more effective than perhaps we are being by making some subtle but quite powerful shifts, starting by really looking at how we're operating now and what we're struggling with. And I love the way that you've really made that seem very accessible to take the time out, because I know, when you're feeling busy and maybe overwhelmed and stressed, that actually is the time when you need it the most, when it feels like it's not possible, but you really would benefit from doing that.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's a thing that really can shift you into a different level of problem solving by taking some time out. This is so interesting. There are many questions I would love to ask you, because I know you've got so many strategies and so many tips, and you're a highly accomplished speaker and writer and have lots of experience in this field. We have just a couple of moments left, which has gone so fast. I would just like to ask you, what is your favorite thing that we haven't touched on already that you would like to share in this space? Because most people here will be business owners, entrepreneurs, or thinking about it. Let's leave another nugget that you feel would be really powerful.
Well, since time management is all about mind management, to me it's extremely important to take care of your brain, because that's what's doing all the thinking. And if your brain is sleep deprived, you're not going to be making those great decisions. So I highly recommend that you decide what time in the morning you would like to wake up, and then backtrack 7 to 8 hours, because that's when you should be going to bed. And backtrack from there 30 minutes beforehand is when you should be shutting off all of your electronics, because when we keep our electronics on, our brains keep on going, and then we can't sleep. So if you can determine what time you need to turn off your electronics and then what time you need to be in bed so you get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep before you need to wake up, you will turn into a different person, because you will feel rested, you will be more productive during the day, and you will make better decisions about how you use your time.
I love that one. I wasn't expecting that one. That's a very, very important one also, because, as you say, the brain health and performance really is governed so much by sleep. So, Helene, you have really opened up some interesting areas for us to evaluate in ourselves. And we are coming to the end of our time. But before we do, I would like to really bring awareness to the gift that you are sharing with our listeners, which is your free productivity Kickstarter kit, which absolutely, I know it's jam-packed with lots of useful resources, tips and strategies that will help through that process that you described earlier of really looking at your how you're spending your time and lots of other things. So if you're listening to this and you're hearing that there's some room for improvement in how you're running your days, your weeks, and enjoying the experience of being a business owner, and giving yourself permission to have time for yourself and good quality time with your family, it really starts with this. This is the foundational piece to really have where the gaps are and where the opportunities are to be making some changes. So thank you for sharing that with us, Helene. It's easy to go and get. You just click on the link and put in your details, and Helene will send it to you. And, of course, she is also available if you would like to connect with her, ask questions, and, follow up on, perhaps getting some support. That's also possible too. So with that being said, I would really just like to thank you enormously for being with us, Helene. It is a pleasure to have you. If our listeners would like to check out your website, they can also see, all the places where you've been featured, where you've written, a bit of your background, which is giving, lots of confidence to be gained from, the experiences that you have had and your expertise in the subject that you speak about now. So thank you very, very much indeed for being with us. It's been a pleasure to spend this relatively short amount of time with you, but so much value and so many important tactics that you have brought to our attention. So thank you very much indeed for that. And I look forward to perhaps the next time we do something together that will bring some different value. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dawn. My pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you again, Helene. Bye for now.